Welcome back, everybody, to Vendetta Sports Media's NBA previews. I'm Jerry Walker. Alongside me is Matt Hanifan. Matt, today we are talking about the Indiana Pacers. Not a great season last year. Definitely seemed like a step back from the Pacers of the past. But what did happen last year? You're the
I
one.
mean, I think it was a step in the right direction in terms of like where they were 2 years ago. And it was the first full year of Tyrese Haliburton, which I mean, I feel like I'm a broken record when we do these previews about like all the players that I just love to watch, and Tyrese Haliburton's definitely topped that list. Um, they went 35 and 47. They improved 10 wins from their previous season, which was kind of a disaster. Uh, they were still on the outside looking in terms of like the playoff chase. I know there was a couple injuries that happened during the season. Um, but I mean, this team, they were, I think, 21st in offensive rating. They were one of the worst defensive teams in the league, but in terms of like the pace and in terms of like them being able to create offense and generate offense from there, they were very proficient in that area. They have one of the best shooters on the planet in Buddy Hield, who may or may not be traded. I know there was earlier in the offseason, he requested a trade because they like extension talks kind of, I don't know if they it kind of hit a wall, and so he may or may not be traded. They may or may not be getting value for that. I don't know, but they I think they had a step in the right direction in terms of like where they were at 2 years ago, even like pre Halliburton when Sabonis was still there with Miles Turner, and that was a front court that for years people were talking about like why, like, is this even going to work? And it just felt like the same question over and over again. And once they got Tyrese, they found their point guard of the future. He got the Supermax extension in the offseason. Where not the Supermax. He got a rookie scale max extension in the offseason, a well-deserved max extension. They made a couple other moves. But I think they're trending in the right direction. I'm high on them for what they can do this upcoming season.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think they did make some good moves in the offseason. But yeah, I forgot how bad they were 2 seasons ago. That was
Yeah.
not good. When they did all that Sabonis trade halfway through for get Halliburton from Sacramento. It didn't really, I completely forgot they were 25 and 57. So yeah, definitely a step back in the right direction. And you mentioned it, Halliburton is fun to watch.
He is good.
He was fun to watch in Sacramento. He's even more fun now that he's kind of finding his groove and just improving year in year out for the Pacers now. So interesting upcoming season though. What did they do? I know there's one move that I really love that they did in the offseason, but what else did they do outside of, I'll say, the Bruce Brown signing?
Well, they got Jarris Walker with the 8th pick in the draft, who I think what he can do defensively as kind of like an off-ball roamer, what he can do, he's very versatile in that he can switch. He helps that back line a lot. He helps cover up anything that like from Mathurin, Buddy, any of their like less proficient defenders. He can help cover a lot of that stuff up. He's, I think, a very good complementary fit next to Miles Turner. Turner is another good like defender in his own right. He's very, I think what Walker can do on the ball as kind of like he can handle the ball. He can be that high post, mid post handoff hub for them if they need one. I think he'll be a threat. I think he'll be a threat in the pick and roll with Tyrese. He's not the best shooter, but there's ways to use him. He's very athletic, both vertically and laterally. And he's also just a very strong player, and so he'll be used as like a screener on and off the ball. And so I'm very high on what he can do, and I think he's like quite literally the perfect fit for what they need. They also traded for Obi Toppin, and they bought low on him. They got him for kind of pennies on the dollar. For years, I remember I've heard Knicks fans on the internet and elsewhere say how he just wasn't getting enough minutes. He's now going to be having more, I think, more opportunity with this Pacers team. They signed Bruce Brown that you mentioned to a 2-year, $45 million deal. I think he has like an option in that final year.
So,
But I think that's a good signing for him because he's just like a Swiss Army knife who can do anything. And again, I keep referencing like previous previews that we've done already. But like go check out the Nuggets preview if you haven't already. But something that I talked about with Joker is his ability to just make everyone better on the floor who shares the floor with him. And I think Tyrese is kind of that same type of player. Like he accentuates everyone's talent offensively when he's on the floor because he's such a dynamic playmaker. He's unbelievably smart. And like I get the shot. His shot is a little funky. There's a hitch in there. Like it's not the most normal looking shot, but it goes in and he's efficient with it. And I think he's just gotten better with it over time. He was impressive over FIBA. And so I think like those reps matter, being in that culture, having those habits, being around that winning type atmosphere. I know US finished 4th, but he was still around guys and he still lived up to the bill whenever he was on the floor in those games. And I think that only helps your confidence especially as a young player. And not that Tyrese wasn't confident before, but I think he's even more confident now. But he's just an incredibly gifted basketball player. I think he's an underrated defender. I think we kind of forget about that side of him because of what he can do on the ball as a playmaker and as a scorer, as a shot creator. I think he's a solid rebounder for someone of his size, but he doesn't need to do that. So that's why you have Jarris Walker. That's why you have Miles Turner. And so I'm very high on this group. They did it like enough during the offseason to where I think they take another leap. I don't know if they improve by 10 wins again, but I think this group definitely potentially reaches that 40 win, 42, 43 win mark. And I think they'll be a playoff team this year. I know I'm jumping ahead when I say that, but yeah.
No, I like that take. I didn't realize how many guys they still have from a few years ago. I thought they traded a lot away in that Sabonis trade, but it wasn't really. I guess it was just Haliburton for Sabonis almost straight up. Probably a few other pieces there, but I like the build of this team.
I mean, they got Healed, so
yeah, Healed is
if they keep him.
Yeah, that's the big question. Is I feel like he wants to go to a contender, and I know Lakers fans want him there, and the money at CSU, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him come February in the trade deadline. Otherwise, like Miles Turner, love him as the center there. I just think he's a good two-way player. Of offensively, he's stout down low. Defensively, he's one of the better shot blockers in the league.
He also got better last year as well. Like he improved a lot with his strength and like how he was able to take care of mismatches in the post, and
because that was an issue.
Showed his strength a lot. He was really good last year for him.
Yeah. Other guy who kind of surprised me in his rookie season that I'm excited to see what happens in year 2 is Benedict Mathurin. I'm excited to see what the kid from Arizona can do because he averaged around like 16 and a half, I want to say, last season. He's now looking like he's going to be the starting shooting guard, which a little more pressure on him, but at the same time, I feel like that's what he wants. So it's going to be exciting to see what he does in year 2 because I was impressed with him year 1. And now getting more reps with Haliburton, Bruce Brown. As I've said, I loved Bruce Brown on the Nuggets last year. Great two-way player, scoring at times when needed, but also off the bench with his defense. And that's something that Indiana might need a little bit of at times because, correct me if I'm wrong, but they weren't the best defensive team by any means last season.
No. Not at all. And that's just why I like the fit of kind of bouncing off that. I kind of like the fit of Walker. I like the fit of Bruce Brown. Like I like even like Obi Toppin. He's just athletic. So where maybe they can tap into something defensively. I don't know. But I like the fit of those guys. Like, and I to your point about Mathurin, like he was my X-Factor. I don't think it's incredibly easy for guys to make second-year leaps all the time, but he's someone who has he has that MFer in him. He has that dog. He has that competitive juice in him. To where I think, like, especially if Heald gets traded, I think he will make that leap, and I think his role will only grow. And I think again, playing alongside Haliburton makes life easier for him, again, as it does for most everyone who plays on the same team as Tyrese Haliburton. He's just that dynamic of a player, but like as like a shot creator, as a guy who can score at multiple levels, And as a guy who showed a lot of flashes as like just like a scoring presence, an impactful scoring presence as a rookie, I think he takes that leap, and I think he's that X factor. Like if he can make that leap, then I think Indiana's even in a better spot than they were last year. And I think they will be anyway, but I think there's even like a higher ceiling to what they can do and a higher floor, so to speak.
Agreed. I do think it's going to be an improvement on last season, and everything's pointing that way. You said what, 43 and 39 was your prediction?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to hover a little lower than that. I don't think they quite make that 8-game jump yet.
Actually, wait, no. In my preview, I want to say it. I had them 40 and 42. Excuse me. I don't know why I said 43. Yeah.
All right, no,
I think they could get to 43, but I don't know if they're there yet.
So that's all right. Yeah, that's more of like your ceiling for them this year. Is that 43?
I would say, yeah, maybe even higher than that. I mean, again, like you have to have things go right,
But
and you have to improve defensively too. And to an extent, you have to improve offensively. But I think they have enough complementary pieces to where that could change. But yeah, I think 40 and 42 is a fair mark for me. I think they will be a playoff team.
yeah, I like them hovering right around that 500 mark, whether it's 42 and 40 or 40, 42, 41s. I think they'll be right in that 3-game stretch by the end of the season. And I agree. I do think they make the play-in. And I think this is where we might see Haliburton kind of break out in the play-in. Depending on who they get matched up against, I could see him taking over now that he's got a little bit of defensive help. We're thinking Buddy Hield, I think if they keep him, his shooting could help. And I think they will win, somehow find a way to get through the play-in and make it either as the 7 or the 8 seed. I would think the 8 seed if they finish around 500. But I could see Haliburton taking over and really rising and becoming a star when it matters the most.
Agreed. And it's like just a couple other players that I want to mention who could take leaps to kind of support what we're talking about here. Aaron Nesmith. I mean, he was a guy who wasn't getting much run in Boston, and he was involved in that Malcolm Brogdon trade. I mean, there was like there's stints with them in Boston, but it wasn't like he didn't get consistent minutes, and he got consistent minutes last year. And that's where it's like I think he can take another leap offensively and defensively. Like he something that I didn't necessarily see from him out of, I think, Vanderbilt, where he came out.
Mm-hmm.
Something that he flashed as a young player is his raw athleticism. Like I didn't necessarily recognize that. Maybe that was just dumb me years and years ago, not knowing how athletic he actually was. But like he was also just a really good shooter in college for like the limited time that he did actually play before he got hurt. But like if I think he can take another leap. Again, this is all contingent off like Hield gets traded, but I think he's one of those guys who can take a leap and possibly earn himself an extension if he continues to produce it the way he did last year. Jalen Smith was another guy they just kind of like bought low on. He was a guy whose option didn't get accepted in Phoenix when he was the top 10 pick. And he wasn't bad last year. TJ McConnell's just a guy just a pesky pain in the butt in the best way possible because of what he can do. I mean, he's a very good distributor. He's a very good point of attack defender, even though he's a little bit undersized. He's just another guy who, like, even when Haliburton's off the floor for 10, 15 minutes a night, he can come in and produce and keep him afloat. And I think that's important. And obviously, again, if Buddy Hield's there, he's one of the best shooters on the planet. He leads the NBA in three-pointers over the last 5 years. Like that's how special he is as a shooter in that. And I think he will have another phenomenal season if he's there playing along Haliburton because he's surrounded by guys who accentuate him. And I think he blossoms in that environment, whether he gets extended or not. Yeah.
Yeah, it is going to be a fun season. A lot of guys that have very big upside of this upcoming year for the Indiana Pacers. Matt, any final thoughts? Or?
I said 40 and 42, man. Again, this was another one where I just kept changing my mind. I think they actually could go like 42-40.
Yeah.
Or like 43-39. Like this is a legit like good team. Vegas, again, as someone who follows like the gambling stuff and someone who has like an interest in that, even though I'm bad at it, their over under opened at like 35.5, and that just got hammered. The over just got completely hammered, and it was like that was one of like the more trendier like which ones moved the most. Like that over it's 38.5 now. I think it might have moved even higher than that. I don't know. But like this is another team who I think a lot of people are just bought in on now. Now that they're in the second full year of Tyrese Haliburton, they have this good like young core that can gel together. With Miles Turner, who got an extension midway through last year, with Walker, who projects to be a rotation player, potentially even a starter, with Mathurin, who, again, as we talked about, is one of the more impactful scorers, especially in the backcourt. Like they have dudes, like they have dudes who are competitive. They have dudes who got that dog in them. But I know I really like this team. I really like the makeup of this team. They just got to improve defensively. I want to see them improve offensively. This is a team that'll put up points regardless. Like this team will move at a ridiculously fast pace, and that's what they've done since Haliburton's got there. And I don't know. I just like this team a lot. But
yeah, it'll be a fun team to watch, and I think I agree with you. Where they are going to take a big step forward this year. Maybe not 10-game big, but
yeah,
could very well be
6, 7, 8 games maybe. I don't know, man. They can, there's a decent variance with this team, but I think they have a much higher floor than what they did than what they had previously.
Absolutely, but I think we're on board with that. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you check out all of our other NBA previews at Vendetta Sports Media's YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to that as well so you see all the upcoming NBA previews that are still to come out. Matt, pleasure as always. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.